There's a windshield I want you to picture. It's raining outside, not a light drizzle, a proper downpour, and the water is hitting the glass and sliding off in sheets before it even has a chance to pool. No smearing, no haze. No blurred mess of oncoming headlights turning the road into an impressionist painting. Just clean, clear glass and an unobstructed view of everything in front of you. I treated that windshield with about $1 worth of compound and 15 minutes of my time, and the treatment lasted 8 months. The professional glass shop 2 miles from my house charges $85 to do the exact same thing. Same chemistry, same result, same driving experience on a wet highway at night. $85 versus $1, and the glass doesn't know the difference. I'm not going to tell you this is a new discovery, it isn't. The chemistry behind what makes glass hydrophobic, what makes water bead and sheet instead of spreading and clinging, was documented and applied industrially before most of the people watching this were born. In 1973, aerospace engineers working on commercial aircraft cockpit visibility were wrestling with a problem that had never been cleanly solved. At altitude, at speed, in weather, cockpit glass accumulates water in a way that's genuinely dangerous. Wipers help, but wipers are mechanical, they fail, they streak, and at certain cruising speeds they're barely adequate. The engineering teams that solved the problem didn't invent a new material. They borrowed a principle from a plant. The lotus plant. If you've ever seen a lotus leaf after rain, you know exactly what I mean. Water doesn't just bead on it, it rolls off in perfect spheres, carrying dust particles with it, leaving the leaf surface cleaner than it was before the rain started. The lotus leaf achieves this because of its microscopic surface architecture, thousands of tiny waxy pillars at the nanoscale that create air pockets beneath each droplet, reducing the contact area between liquid and surface to almost nothing. The water has nowhere to grip. So it rolls. The aerospace engineers couldn't replicate the physical texture of a lotus leaf on an aircraft windshield, but they could replicate the chemistry. A silicone-based compound that bonds to glass at a molecular level and mimics exactly what the lotus plant does naturally. It fills in the microscopic pores and valleys in the glass surface, and glass has more of those than you'd think, and creates a surface so hydrophobic that water arriving on it has no meaningful contact point to cling to. That compound went into aircraft cockpit glass treatments starting in 1973. And it stayed in aviation applications, quietly, for nearly a decade before anyone brought it down to the automotive level. And here's where the history gets interesting. The aerospace engineers weren't working in a vacuum. Marine engineers had been applying hydrophobic compounds to the windshields and portholes of ocean-going vessels since at least the late 1950s. The problem is structurally identical salt spray, constant moisture, the need for navigable visibility in conditions where a wiper is inadequate, unreliable, or flat-out unavailable. The marine solution was a wax-based hydrophobic paste applied by hand and buffed to a clear finish. It wasn't elegant, it needed frequent reapplication in heavy weather, and the salt air created its own challenges at the edges of the treated area. But the principle was exactly the same. Create a surface so chemically hostile to water that the water has no mechanism to spread across it. Auto detailing culture in certain parts of the world picked this up in the early 1980s and ran with it quietly. Concentrated hydrophobic coatings, applied by hand, buffed clear, leaving glass that performed in rain the way no untreated glass ever could. The professional glass treatment services that charge you $80 to $120 today are doing a version of exactly what those independent detailers discovered and shared between themselves 40 years ago. That kind of independent convergence aviation, marine, detailing doesn't happen by accident. It happens when the principle works so reliably that everyone who encounters the problem eventually arrives at the same answer. You already know this reaction. You've seen it your whole life and just never connected the dots. Think about a freshly waxed car hood in the rain. The water doesn't spread, it gathers into neat beads and rolls to the edge. Think about the surface of a well-seasoned cast iron pan. Water dropped onto it, doesn't wet the surface, it balls up and slides. Think about a duck's feathers. A duck dives, surfaces, shakes once, and the water sheet off in a fraction of a second. The feathers beneath are completely dry. All of it is the same principle. A surface made hydrophobic water-fearing technically behaves identically whether it's car paint, cast iron, feathers, or glass. What happens to an untreated windshield in the rain is called sheeting. The water spreads flat, forms a continuous thin film across the whole surface, and turns the glass into a translucent, distorted mess that your wipers can barely manage. Every pass of the wiper clears it for about 3 seconds, and then the film reforms, and you're squinting again through the smear. What happens to a treated windshield is called beading, and it isn't just aesthetically different, it's functionally safer. The water can't spread, It gathers into individual droplets, and at highway speeds, aerodynamic pressure blows those droplets clear of the glass before the wiper even makes contact. Above 50 miles an hour in moderate rain, a properly treated windshield barely needs the wipers running at all. That's not marketing copy, that's what the physics of hydrophobicity actually does. The reason you've never heard of it is honestly kind of annoying. The professional glass treatment services at auto glass shops and dealership service departments generate somewhere between $80 and $120 per application, per vehicle. It's typically bundled with windshield replacement, or offered as a premium upsell during a detailing appointment. The pitch sounds reasonable because the treatment genuinely works and the result is genuinely noticeable. The compound doing all of it, the active ingredient responsible for the entire result, costs under $1 per application when you buy it in its consumer form. A standard bottle of Rain-X glass water repellent runs about $10 at any auto parts store. Each bottle contains enough product for 15 to 20 windshield applications. That's 50 cents to 65 cents per treatment. 50 cents versus $85. Same silicone compound chemistry, same molecular bonding mechanism, same result on the glass. And the glass shop isn't doing anything you can't do in your own driveway in 15 minutes. A compound that costs less than $1 per use and permanently interrupts a service that generates $100 per visit is not something a service business has any motivation to point you toward. It's almost sad, when you look at it that way, a piece of chemistry that's been available in consumer form since the early 1980s, sitting on the shelf at AutoZone, and most people walk right past it because nobody's ever explained what it actually does. Let me just show you how to do it. Here's the parts list, and I want to be real with you, this is genuinely it. Rain-X glass water repellent. Available at AutoZone, O'Reilly, Advance Auto, Walmart, Amazon, any of them. Standard bottle, about $10. You'll find it in the windshield care section, usually near the washer fluid. A stack of clean microfiber cloths. 2 of them is enough. You probably already have these, if not, a pack of 10 runs about $6. Standard glass cleaner, whatever you already use at home, anything ammonia-based will work. That's it, the whole parts list, $12 to $14 on the outside, and it treats your windshield once a year for the life of the bottle. Start with a clean, dry windshield. This step isn't optional, and it isn't a formality, it's the single most important condition for a good result. Road film, bug residue, old wiper streak, any contamination on the surface will bond with the compound before the compound can bond with the glass, and you'll get a hazy, uneven coating that doesn't perform the way it should. Clean the glass thoroughly. Dry it completely. Give it a moment. Apply a small amount of Rain-X to a clean, dry microfiber cloth. The amount you want is roughly a circle the size of a quarter. That sounds like very little. It isn't. The product is concentrated and you're treating a surface, not painting one. Work the compound into the glass, in small, overlapping circular motions, section by section, driver's side first, then passenger side, then the top portion. As you work, you'll watch the glass go slightly hazy, a thin, whitish film developing as the silicone begins curing against the surface. That haze is the treatment bonding. That's exactly what you want to see. Leave it. Let it cure for 2 to 3 minutes. The temptation is to buff it immediately, and that's the mistake. The silicone needs contact time to bond properly to the glass. After the haze has fully developed and started to look dull and matte, take a fresh, dry microfiber cloth and buff it clear using straight, overlapping strokes. You'll feel the friction change as the surface clears. The cloth will start gliding instead of catching. When the glass is streak-free and clear, the treatment is complete. It looks like nothing happened. The glass is transparent, clear, exactly as it was. The next time it rains, you'll understand immediately that something very different is happening. Here's the one thing people get wrong when they first try this. They apply too much product, assuming more coverage means better results. It doesn't. A heavier application leaves a thicker residue layer that's harder to buff clear, more likely to streak, and doesn't actually bond any better than a thin application. The silicone compound bonds at a molecular level. The film you're creating is measured in nanometers, not millimeters. Quarter-sized amount, thin even application, patient buffing. That's the formula. Every time. My first proper test of this was on a 2016 Honda Civic, driven in western Washington where the rain season starts in October and doesn't really end until May. I treated the windshield and both front door windows one Saturday afternoon. The following Monday, I drove through 40 minutes of steady highway rain with the wipers set to intermittent instead of continuous, something that would normally be borderline dangerous on that commute. The glass was staying clear between wiper passes because the water wasn't sheeting in the first place. It was beading and being blown clear by the airflow above about 45 miles an hour. That single treatment lasted 7 months before I noticed the beading starting to break down, water beginning to sheet again across the lower portion of the glass where the wipers make the most contact. 7 months of genuinely improved wet weather visibility, reduced wiper strain, and clearer nighttime driving in rain. For under $1 worth of material. I've applied it to every car since, and the conversation I have when I mention it to other people always ends the same way, a long pause, and then some version of why is this not common knowledge? And I want to be real with you. This treatment isn't permanent, and it doesn't make your windshield indestructible. In dry climates with infrequent wiper use, a single application can realistically last 10 to 12 months. In wet climates with heavy wiper use, the Pacific Northwest, coastal regions, areas with sustained rainy seasons, plan on reapplication every 6 to 8 months. Your wiper blades are the primary factor in how quickly the coating degrades. Every wiper pass gradually erodes the silicone layer from the glass surface, especially if the blades are worn and dragging rather than gliding cleanly. If your wiper blades are due for replacement, replace them before you apply the treatment. It'll extend the coating life noticeably and prevent the degradation pattern from being uneven. And nothing about this compound repairs chips, cracks, internal fogging, or any structural damage to the glass. It treats the surface chemistry of intact glass. For any physical damage, you still need a glass professional. Here's the part that keeps sitting with me. The aerospace engineers who developed the silicone hydrophobic treatment for cockpit glass in 1973 weren't classifying their methods. The research was documented in aviation maintenance literature. The chemistry was published. The marine engineers using wax-based hydrophobic treatments on vessel glass before that, they were sharing methods between ship operators and harbor maintenance crews for decades. And a consumer version of this compound has been sitting on hardware store and auto parts store shelves since the early 1980s. It's been there the whole time. It never appeared in the safety sections of owners' manuals. It was never recommended by dealership service advisors as something a driver could do at home. It was quietly converted into an $80 professional service and left there. And the part that genuinely bothers me, not angrily, just in a quiet, sitting with it kind of way, is that this is a visibility compound. Rain is a significant contributing factor in vehicle accidents. Reduced visibility in wet conditions is a documented safety problem. And a compound that meaningfully improves windshield clarity in rain, costs 50 cents per application, and takes 15 minutes to apply, has been commercially available for 40 years, while glass shops have been charging $85 for the same result. I don't know what to do with that except to talk about it. I don't know what brought you here. Maybe you drove home last week in weather your wipers couldn't keep up with and you started wondering if there was a better option. Maybe you're the person who researches everything before they decide what to use, and this came up in a thread somewhere. Maybe you just got through the last video about the forgotten 1940s fix for lost engine power and kept watching. Doesn't matter, it works either way, now you know how. Knowledge like this doesn't disappear on its own, it gets buried. This channel digs it back up. Next time, I'm looking at an industrial corrosion prevention compound from the 1950s, something that's been quietly protecting the cooling systems of heavy industrial equipment for 70 years, costs about $2, and the automotive repair industry has a very good reason to hope you never find it. Subscribe if that matters to you. Take care, and I'll see you in the next.